So when you think about ancient Israel, your mind probably jumps to these epic stories, right? You've got kings, prophets, massive battles. But what if the land itself, I mean the actual rocks, the valleys, the dirt, wasn't just some passive backdrop? What if it was one of the main characters driving the entire story?
Seriously, think about that. What if the geography was the reason certain wars were won and lost? What if it decided where people could live and even shape their entire culture? Well, today we're going to look at the history of ancient Israel through a totally different lens, the ground right under their feet.
So here's our plan. We're going to take a journey, a kind of cross-section of the land, moving from east to west. We'll kick things off in the brutal wilderness, then climb up into the secure hill country. From there, we'll jump over to the dangerous coastal plain. And finally, we'll land right in the middle of the action, the battleground known as the Shephelah. You're going to see how it all fits together.
Okay, our journey starts in the east, in the Judean wilderness. And let me tell you, this place is desolate. It is unforgiving. We're not talking about lush forests here. This is a land of rock, dust, and deep shadows.
So why is it so incredibly harsh? Well, it all boils down to this neat geographical trick called a rain shadow. You see, the hills just to the west soak up all the rain coming off the sea, so by the time the clouds get here, they're wrung dry. It's a tough place to make a living, for sure, but that very difficulty is what made it so important.
Because it was so extreme, this landscape became the ultimate hideout. Think about it. This is where David ran to escape King Saul. It's where the Qumran community, the folks who gave us the Dead Sea Scrolls, fled to escape what they felt was a corrupt Jerusalem. Even Herod the Great built these insane fortress palaces like Masada out here as his own personal escape hatches. It was also a place of spiritual testing for John the Baptist, for Jesus, and later a home for Christian monks looking for solitude. This harsh, empty land was, paradoxically, a place of refuge.
All right, let's head west now. As we climb out of that wilderness and into the central hill country, the change is, well, it's immediate. You've left the testing ground and entered the fortress. This was the safe, secure heartland of the Israelite people.
And the secret sauce here? It's the geology. We're talking hard limestone. This kind of rock gives you everything you need. High elevation, which means you catch more rain, it creates good soil for farming, and you get these super steep V-shaped valleys that are just a dream to defend. It was, quite literally, a natural fortress. Just the perfect place to build a nation.
And that isolation was absolutely crucial. Tucked away up in these hills, the Israelites had the space to develop their own unique culture, you know? They were relatively safe from the huge empires and their armies that were always marching up and down the coast. This was their sanctuary.
Now, this is fascinating because it shows you the constant tension they lived under. Right here you have Bethlehem, this little hometown of King David, the very symbol of Israelite identity. And then, looming right next door, you've got the Herodium, this absolutely monstrous fortress built by Herod the Great, who was basically a puppet king for Rome. You can literally see the pressure of foreign domination carved right into the landscape. Okay, let's keep moving west down from the safety of the hills and onto the flat, open coastal plain. If the hill country was a fortress, the coastal plain was a superhighway, and it was a really, really dangerous place to be.
This slide just lays it all out perfectly. You've got the hill country, isolated, defensible, the Israelite heartland. And then you have the coastal plain, totally accessible, vulnerable, and a home to their biggest rivals, the Philistines. It was a cosmopolitan world of international trade and clashing armies, the complete opposite of the self-contained culture up in the hills. Two different worlds, created by two different geologies, literally living right next to each other.
The power on this plain was really concentrated in 5 major cities, what's called the Philistine Pentapolis. These places, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Gath, and Ekron, were basically the launching pads for wave after wave of conflict against the Israelites holed up in the hills.
And that brings us to the climax of our geographical story, the Shephelah. This is the land in between. This is the buffer zone where the world of the hill country and the world of the coastal plain just crashed into each other, over and over for centuries.
So what exactly is the Shephelah? Geographically, it's pretty unique. It's made of soft limestone, so you get these low, rolling hills. But the key feature, the thing you have to understand, are the valleys. There are a whole series of valleys that cut right through it, from east to west. And these valleys, they became natural highways for invasion.
I absolutely love this quote from Dr. Paul Wright because it just nails the dynamic perfectly. The Shephelah was like a set of swinging barroom doors. Whoever had the upper hand would just burst through, the Philistines pushing east into the hills or the Israelites pushing west toward the coast. It was this constant, violent tug of war, and the whole thing was dictated by these valley corridors.
And guess what? This brings us to one of the most famous stories ever told, which just happens to be a perfect example of this whole setup. The story of David and Goliath. It wasn't just a legendary duel, it was a classic geographical conflict. The Philistines march up one of those east-west highways, the Elah Valley, trying to get into the hill country. So what happens? King Saul brings his army down from the hills to block them. The entire showdown happens right there, on the valley floor, in the buffer zone. It's exactly where the geography says a battle like this should happen.
Okay, now let's jump to another key spot in the Shephelah, the massive fortress of Lachish. Archaeologists were digging there in the ancient city gate, and they found something. Well, something that made absolutely no sense at first.
They found a toilet, a stone toilet, sitting right in a room inside the city gate complex where they also found the remains of a destroyed altar. So the question becomes, why in the world would you install a latrine in a place that used to be a shrine?
Well, it turns out this was an act of intentional political desecration. The Bible tells us stories about Israelite kings like Hezekiah, who led these huge religious reforms, smashing altars to foreign gods. And there's this one wild story where the prophet Jehu tears down a temple to the god Baal and then has latrines built right on top of it. So this toilet, it wasn't about sanitation. It was a powerful political and religious statement. It was a way to permanently shame and pollute a sacred space to make absolutely sure it would never be used for idolatry again. It's a case of archaeology backing up the biblical account right there in stone.
So, as we finish our journey from the eastern wilderness all the way to the western coast, one thing becomes incredibly clear.
The land was never just a stage for the action. It was the action. It was an active force shaping everything. You had these 4 distinct zones, the wilderness, the hill country, the Shephelah, and the coastal plain, all lined up right next to each other. And that simple geographical layout created the perfect storm for centuries of conflict, culture, and history. If you really want to understand these ancient stories, you have to start by understanding the ground they walked on.
Just 4 zones. That's all it took to create this incredible, complicated world.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big question, doesn't it? Once you start looking at history this way, you start seeing it everywhere. It makes you wonder, how many other historical events, how many other famous stories that we think we know inside and out are really, at their very core, stories about geography?